Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'll be doing a reaction of the news that Dana White broke on Instagram of that the UFC will be heading to Saudi Arabia this June. But before we get into that, make sure to hit the like button, share button, and subscribe button for more great content as we are on the way to 1,000 subs. And also tune in tonight at 10:30 where I will be going live discussing the latest rumor for UFC 305's main event. I'll also be discussing that it's going to be in Perth and also discuss where the locations of the other UFC pay-per-views are going to be between now and the end of the year. Yes, let's get into this. Dana White's big announcement. The UFC are heading to Saudi Arabia in June 22nd. That's not the big announcement because we sort of knew that this was going to happen for a while because Saudi are just getting their hands into MMA. They've got it with PFL, Bellator, because they literally did a show there not so long ago. So it was only be a matter of time before they got their way into the UFC. And I do expect there to be more shows coming in Saudi Arabia in the coming years. What the big announcement is that we're going to see Khamzat Chimaev and Robert Whittaker fight in the main event. Yes, massive fight. Khamzat's coming off of that really, techie win against Kamaru Usman, like a late notice Kamaru Usman. And then obviously Robert Whittaker came off of that, I believe it's like a unanimous decision win against Paulo Costa, where Costa nearly had him out there in the first round, but Robert Whittaker was luckily saved by the bell. But I think with this, the biggest thing is that this is now a #1 contenders bout for the UFC middleweight title, which begs a lot of questions. What have you done with Sean Strickland? Has Sean Strickland's antics since losing the belt, has that sort of turned Dana off the idea of giving him an immediate rematch? Maybe. For me, with immediate rematches in the UFC, for me, there should be a criteria of where you should get a rematch. Super close fight, you lose the belt by split decision, and it needs to be a fun fight, like Duplessis and Strickland was. So that what should have warranted a rematch. You don't get a rematch if you get knocked clean out, or if you tap out, like tap out before the championship round, sort of thing. Like you need to make it worth us retuning in to watch that fight. If you know what I mean. No one wants to see a rematch, for an example, of Ngannou and Derek Lewis. No one wants to see that rematch ever again, sort of thing. So I'm not shocked actually that the UFC has done the Strickland, because the UFC work in mysterious ways, in ways that don't make sense. And the fact is that you're not going to give Strickland a rematch is odd. It's not surprising. Now that he's confirmed not to be the #1 contender, I do expect Strickland to probably fight a couple more times before he even get in belt consideration, to be honest. With regards to the matchup for Whittaker and Khamzat, it's a lot tighter than people will think it's going to be, because we know that Khamzat has got some cardio issues when it comes into especially the late rounds. I know he broke his hand against Kamaru first round. That may have affected his performance. But this is going to be, I believe, Khamzat's first 5-rounder. And I need to see how that cardio holds up in the championship round, because if we're looking at his chances based on his previous performances, I'm not really feeling that Khamzat could really win this fight. Could he win? Absolutely. He could go out there and absolutely start Robert Whittaker, pick him up like he did Kevin Holland, and tap him out within like a minute and a half. That is definitely a possibility. But if Robert Whittaker can sort of survive the first 2 rounds, which, to be honest, since that Duplessis fight where he sort of got gassed early, sort of Duplessis pushed the pace and got the KO, and you're probably thinking, that's just a one-off. But then Paulo Costa, like Whittaker, was winning like the first round, looking good, and then just on a click of a finger, Costa hits that head kick, and you're thinking, shit, Whittaker could be out here first round, and then second round it took Whittaker a little bit of a while to sort of like get the cobwebs out after that beautiful spinning head kick, by the way, absolutely beautiful from Costa. And you're probably thinking that the first 2 rounds are going to be key, because if Hamzat gets the job done in the first 2 rounds, it's a massive statement. It's an absolutely massive statement to whoever holds the belt when he gets there. But if Robert Whittaker can survive the first 2 rounds and really drag it into the championship rounds, use that experience that Whittaker has, because Whittaker has been there, done it. He's had multiple 5-rounders. He knows what it's going to take cardio-wise to pace yourself throughout the 5 rounds. So that's going to be really, really important. For me, it's a 50-50 fight. To be honest, there is no clear favorite for me for this, but it's going to be 50-50. I'll probably make a decision closer to the time about who I think would win. But it's going to be a great fight. It's going to be a close fight. I don't expect there to be much trash talking, because I know Whittaker's a very, very respected fighter. I know Hamzat likes to chirp up a bit, but I think he says that he does respect Robert Whittaker, so I would expect for them to keep like the build up relatively respectful. But yes, and also on this card as well, co-main event, Sergey Pavlovich versus Alexander Volkov. Good main event, good co-main event. Pavlovich making his return after Tom Aspinall absolutely decimated him within like a minute when Aspinall won the interim heavyweight title. This is a tough matchup. Tough matchup. This wasn't going to be the rumored matchup. The rumored matchup was going to be Cyril Gane. Obviously, we know what Cyril Gane's on at the moment. Like, if he likes to duck this fight, duck this opponent. I do understand why he sort of turned down the fight, because UFC Paris is happening in September. And would you want Pavlovich Gane in Saudi, knowing Gane's probably going to headline the Paris card, unless it's Benoit Saint-Denis? So I can see why that's happened. But yeah, Gane needs to fight a top level guy in Paris and stop ducking top opposition, because you're not going to worm your way back to another title shot, but another interim title shot. But hey ho, stranger things have happened. And would it surprise me if after Tom Aspinall defends his belt that he'll be made to go to France and defend it against Gane? With the UFC, nothing surprises me, to be honest. But it's going to be a difficult matchup. How is Sergey going to be after that KO? We know that he is a massive knockout artist. Volkov will make it difficult for Pavlovich because of the kickboxing, because of Volkov's size, the length. How is Pavlovich going to work the angles, the distance, to sort of close him down to land the big power punches? I think that's going to be a really interesting dynamic. Do not be surprised if Volkov wins. I know that he'll probably be the betting underdog, but I do think he does have a good chance against Pavlovich. Be very interested to see what would happen if Pavlovich just gets stunned. Is he going to get memories of going, oh shit, been in this position before, got knocked out? Or do you think he's going to recover and sort of, get the win? It'd be interesting. It'd be a great fight to see. A massive opportunity for Volkov to sort of get back into title contention at the moment. But with the UFC heavyweight division, we know what the deal is. With that, I'd rather not go into that again. Also on the card is going to be Kelvin Gastelum versus Daniel Rodriguez at welterweight. And then also we're going to have Johnny Walker will return to action after suffering that knockout against Ankalaev in January, and he'll be returning against Volkan Oezdemir. And also the fighter best known as Shara Bullet, which is Sharabutin Magodov. Yeah, I absolutely butchered that name, so apologize. And he'll be stepping up against Ihor Vitoria in a light heavyweight matchup. Yeah, Pretoria came. He's coming off of a submission loss to Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, but he did make middleweight relatively in short notice, and he is a very small light heavyweight. But yeah, it'd be very interesting to see. I would imagine that would open the main card. I do expect more fights to be added. I do expect it to be a very stacked card because the UFC aren't going to go to Saudi and not put a superb card on. So I do expect a few more big names being added to this card before the 22nd of January. But everyone that's tuned in, know what you think of the announcement that the UFC will be heading to Saudi Arabia. Do you see it as a long-term partnership for the UFC? And let me know what you think of the matchup between Hamza and Robert Whittaker. Let me know how you think it goes, and also who else do you think will be added to this card. And also make sure to hit the like button, share button, and subscribe button. Make sure you tune in at 10:30 tonight. I will be going live because we will go into this into more detail, and I'll also be discussing the rumored opponent, the rumored main event, sorry, for UFC 305 in Perth, Australia, and we'll also be breaking down the UFC pay-per-view schedule between now and the end of the year, and many more. So everyone that's tuned in, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all very soon. Peace.